Have you ever spoken your truth, only to feel like no one's listening? Do you sometimes wonder if silence is safer than honesty, especially after 60? And could the peace you're seeking come not from what you say, but from what you choose not to? There comes a moment in life, especially as we grow older, when you realize that not every truth needs to be voiced. You might feel like you're shouting into the void, hoping someone will finally hear you, finally understand, only to be met with an awkward silence. Or worse, polite dismissal. And so, over time, life teaches you a difficult but liberating lesson. Not every story needs to be told. Not every pain needs to be explained. Not every dream needs to be shared with the world. Some truths are simply too sacred to be spilled carelessly. They deserve to be held close, like something precious. And choosing to guard those truths is not weakness. It's a profound act of strength. In this video, we're going to explore 9 powerful truths that you should keep to yourself. Not because you're hiding from life, but because you're protecting your peace, reclaiming your emotional power, and honoring your journey. I'm here to guide you through this deeply personal reflection, one built on quiet wisdom and the dignity of choosing silence when the world demands explanation. Stay with me until the very end, because the final truth may unlock something you've been searching for your entire life. A realization that allows you to live with greater freedom, confidence, and calm. Before we begin, if you find value in this message, I'd be grateful if you clicked the like button. It helps support this channel so I can continue sharing meaningful lessons for those navigating the later chapters of life. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I invite you to do so now and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss future videos filled with real insight and quiet strength. Now, let's begin. Have you ever noticed the shift? The moment you begin sharing your physical challenges and your children's expressions subtly change. Their eyes drop to the floor, their hands reach unconsciously for their phones, or their words drift toward a lighter subject. You feel the moment slip away. They're no longer fully present with you. They've quietly exited the conversation without saying a word. This isn't a coincidence. It's an invisible boundary, a quiet wall that goes up not through speech, but through glances, pauses, and redirections. It's a silent signal that says, "This is too much." Some silences aren't created by absence. They're constructed by discomfort. And often, the people closest to you don't even realize they're building them. Let's be clear about our first truth. Your body, its aches, its fragility, its ever-growing list of reminders that time is passing, isn't a topic your children are ready to confront. It's not because they don't love you. It's not because you're alone in your experience. It's because your pain, your vulnerability, the visible signs of age etched into your body stir a discomfort in them that they don't know how to process. There's a quiet fear in seeing someone you love look tired, or struggle to stand, or move more slowly than they used to. And that fear often gets buried under avoidance. We live in a world that recoils from discomfort, a culture that glamorizes youth and vitality while quietly turning away from the realities of aging, illness, and grief. Rather than face the messy truth, people often choose distraction. They scroll, shift topics, smile too quickly. And in those moments, your truth, though deeply valid, is left to echo in an empty space. Society glorifies youth. It celebrates vitality, resilience, and the illusion of permanence. Quick fixes and flawless appearances are elevated, while the quiet reality of a body shaped by time is often ignored. There seems to be little room for the slow grace of aging, for the truth etched into every wrinkle, every scar, every joint that no longer moves without resistance. But your body, your lived-in, worn, resilient body, tells the story of a life fully experienced. You carry it with you every day. And while you cannot escape it, you should never feel pressured to hide it. The real sorrow isn't that your children avoid these conversations. It's that you continue to reach across that growing emotional distance, hoping, perhaps without saying so, that this time might be different. You mentioned the long list of medications you take each morning, the sharp ache in your hip that steals your sleep, the rotating cycle of doctor's visits that now punctuate your week. You're not looking for pity. You're not seeking attention. You're simply reaching out from a place of quiet, enduring hope. A hope that if you speak your truth clearly enough, someone might finally look you in the eye and say, "I see you. I'm here." That someone will acknowledge your experience not as a burden, but as a reality worth honoring. Yet, too often, that moment never comes. Instead, your honesty is met with silence. Thick, uncomfortable silence. Or it's gently redirected, brushed aside, rewrapped in a polite change of subject. And sometimes, without anyone meaning harm, you're left feeling as if you've said too much, as if your truth is somehow inconvenient. This isn't cruelty, though it may feel like rejection. It's a kind of emotional avoidance, deeply rooted in a culture that has little capacity for real suffering. We've been taught to medicate pain, to distract from it, to treat it as something to eliminate rather than understand. We rarely learn how to simply sit with pain, ours or anyone else's. But your body? It holds everything. It's a living record of what you've endured and overcome. The lines on your face, the stiffness in your limbs, the rhythm of your breath. They're all reminders that you've lived through storms and seasons and are still standing. That kind of humanity can be overwhelming for others to confront, because it forces them to look at their own future, their own mortality. There's a particular image I can't forget, one that speaks to this quiet struggle. An elderly woman sitting in a stark hospital waiting room, her hands folded carefully in her lap. Her voice, steady but full of weight, recounts each symptom to the doctor with deliberate care. Every word feels chosen, as though she's building a case for why her pain is real, why she deserves to be there, to be heard. But beneath her carefully articulated list of ailments is something far deeper. It's not just physical relief she seeks, it's recognition. She longs to be seen not as a list of conditions or complaints, but as a whole person, a woman with a story, with a soul, with value that still matters. This is the quiet plea carried by so many who live in aging bodies, bodies that no longer move with the ease of youth, but still hold immense wisdom and depth. In Christian tradition, we're taught that the body is a temple, a sacred vessel of the spirit. But what happens when that temple begins to show its cracks? When the walls creak beneath the weight of years? When the foundation shifts and settles with time? Do we patch the cracks and pretend they're not there? Do we apologize for the noise, the wear, the way it leans a little more than it used to? Or do we begin to feel ashamed of the very body that has carried us faithfully for decades? A wise voice, weathered by time and experience, once wrote that, "Your body is part of life's sacred rhythm. It moves through cycles, through seasons, through inevitable change. We don't need to dramatize its decline, nor should we shrink from it in shame. The body is not something to worship as flawless, nor is it something to use as a tool for pity or validation. It is far more than that. It is a living archive, a testament to endurance. Every wrinkle, every scar, every tremble in your hand or ache in your hip is proof that you've lived, that you've survived. Your body doesn't need justification. It doesn't need to be defended. What it needs, what it has always deserved, is respect. And that respect must start with you. It lives in the way you care for your body, in how you speak to it, in how you honor its changes without apology. Respect also means recognizing when to stop offering your body as a topic for judgment. It's about knowing when to withdraw from spaces where your experiences are misunderstood or dismissed. There's a quiet, profound power in choosing silence with those who cannot hold space for your truth. There comes a time to stop explaining your pain to those who only respond with distance. Stop seeking comfort from people whose presence is laced with avoidance. Not every battle requires dialogue. Some are fought with presence, with dignity, with the unwavering strength of continuing to show up for yourself, tending to your body even when others pretend not to see its struggle. Your strength is not measured by how well you convince others to understand. It's reflected in the way you continue to care for your body, the way you live with its shifting rhythms without shame. There's immense dignity in choosing not to offer your pain as something to be analyzed or fixed by those who don't have the emotional capacity to hold it. That is the difference between fragility and true power. And even now, even in your discomfort, even through the quiet ache, you are not weak. You are powerful. You are resilient. There is grace in honoring your body, not as a problem to be explained, but as a companion to be cherished. You don't need to transform it into a request for validation. That's not your role. That's not your burden. Yet there's another weight, subtler, harder to name. It clings quietly, often unnoticed, until it begins to tighten its grip. And it brings us to the second truth you must protect. Stop explaining why you are still alone. Solitude, when chosen, is not a punishment. It's not a failure. It is a form of peace, a space you've carved out for yourself, with intention, with self-awareness. But when others misunderstand it, they begin to treat it as something that must be fixed, as if your solitude were a symptom, as if being alone were a flaw. And so begins the slow, steady pressure. How many times have you heard the question, delivered with a polite smile but laced with judgment? So, are you thinking about dating again? Or, don't you want to find someone? These questions seem innocent, but they carry a subtle insult. They imply that your current state is incomplete, temporary, even sad, unless you're actively seeking someone to fill the perceived gap. But here's the truth. You are not broken. You are not missing something. You are not unfinished. You are not sitting around waiting for someone to complete your life. You are not holding space in your heart for someone to fill a void that doesn't exist. And most importantly, you are not required to justify the shape of your days or the rhythm of your choices to anyone. In the wisdom of timeless philosophical traditions, the good life is one lived in harmony with your own nature, one that aligns with the truth of who you are, not with who the world expects you to be. So if your nature finds peace in solitude, if your spirit softens in silence, then why should anyone demand an explanation from you? Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Look within. Within is the fountain of good, and it will ever bubble up if you will ever dig." But digging within yourself isn't always easy. It requires courage, especially when others look at your solitude and mistake it for sadness, when they project their own discomfort, treating your independence as if it were failure, especially if you're a woman. It's not just unfair. It's a quiet form of violence, wrapped in societal norms and well-meaning concern. It dismisses the depth of your journey and the power of your decision. Because choosing solitude, especially after years spent sacrificing for others, raising children, holding families together, or putting your own needs on hold, isn't loneliness. It's liberation. There are women who have grown tired of negotiating over dinner menus, over what time to come home, or how much space they're allowed to take up. Women who no longer wish to trade their precious peace just to play a part in someone else's story. These are women who have earned the sacred right to close the door, to sit with their own thoughts over a warm cup of tea, to sleep undisturbed through the night, and to enjoy their stillness without needing permission or apology. They have carried the burdens of love and loss, of nurturing others and being left behind. And now, they choose a different path, one that leads inward, to the calm that comes from knowing themselves deeply. Yet when this truth is spoken aloud, it unsettles others. When you stand tall in your solitude, without apology, without guilt. It disturbs the narrative society has clung to for far too long, that a woman alone must be lonely, that her life must be incomplete. Some people need to see you as lacking. They need to believe you are in need of rescue, so they can feel useful, so they can continue holding the pen to your story. But you are not a damsel. You are not broken. You've survived abandonment. You've endured the sting of heartbreak and the slow erosion that time sometimes brings. You've lived through the heaviness of grief, of being misunderstood, of carrying more than your share, and still, you rose. You emerged with quiet strength. And now, you've chosen yourself. Think of the ancient image of the hermit, not as a lonely soul, but as a seeker. A wise woman who steps away from the noise not out of defeat, but out of clarity. Solitude, when chosen freely, is not emptiness, it's fullness. It is the sanctuary where your spirit breathes, unburdened. If your heart is at peace when you're alone, if the simple act of closing the door behind you brings a deep, unshakable calm, if you've come to cherish your own company without the ache of loneliness, then you've found something rare, something real, and you no longer owe the world an explanation. Release the need to justify your quiet. Let go of the pressure to defend your joy. Your solitude is not a gap to be filled. It is your temple. It is sacred ground. And not everyone has earned the right to enter. You don't owe it. You don't need it. You are already whole. If you're still here watching this video, truly absorbing these lessons and walking through this journey with me, take a moment and comment number 1 below. It lets me know that you're present, that these words are resonating with you. And for that, I want to sincerely thank you for giving your valuable time and trust to this space. As you begin to embrace the truths we've discussed, there's another quiet struggle that often begins to surface. One that doesn't scream for attention, yet slowly chips away at your inner peace. It's the kind of drain that's hard to detect at first, but over time, it hollows out your energy, leaving you emotionally threadbare. That brings us to our third point. Do not reveal the full depth of your disappointments. Some wounds are not meant for public viewing. They are sacred. They deserve the quiet shelter of your inner world, not the careless scrutiny of others who haven't earned the right to witness them. Opening up those delicate scars to someone unprepared or unwilling to honor your truth is like placing a raw wound into the wind. Rather than healing, it invites infection. There comes a point when you must stop repeating the stories of who failed you, who didn't show up, who loved you only when it was convenient, or made promises they never intended to keep. And no, it's not because the pain doesn't matter or that it should be erased. It's because your dignity should never depend on being understood by those who didn't value you in the first place. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "It's not things themselves that disturb us, but our opinions about them." Healing, then, is not about denying pain or suppressing it, but about transforming it. It's the quiet, sacred work of turning wounds into wisdom. Because when you keep sharing the same pain over and over, hoping that someone will finally understand, you run the risk of making it your identity. That pain becomes like a shadow you can't shake, a story you unknowingly let define who you are. So here's something to try. Write a letter you'll never send. Pour into it every piece of hurt, every broken expectation, every silence that echoed louder than words. Say everything you've never had the chance, or the safe space, to say. Name the people who disappointed you. Name the versions of yourself that waited in vain. Then, keep the letter, burn it, or release it in whatever way feels right. But don't hand it over to someone who wasn't there when the pain was born. They won't understand it now. They won't know how to hold it. And the truth is, this kind of silence isn't weakness. It's not shame. It's not fear. It's wisdom. It's choosing to protect the sanctity of your heart. Because your heart is more than a place for memories. It's a garden. And it can't flourish if the soil is tainted with resentment or misunderstood pain. It needs peace. It needs protection. And most of all, it needs you to be its guardian, not its apologist. You can't keep trying to sow seeds in the rubble of something that never truly existed. It's time to clear that ground, reclaim your space, and protect what's still growing inside you. If this reflection resonates, I'd love for you to take a moment and subscribe. And if you're open to it, drop a comment below that says, "I choose my silence," and tell me which country you're watching from. There are more truths ahead, and the most profound one is still waiting. I hope you'll stay with me through it. Now we've arrived at the fourth truth. Stop apologizing for living differently. This is one of the most subtle but dangerous traps. It doesn't come with loud judgment or open rejection. Instead, it hides behind a polite smile or a soft nudge that suggests you might be doing life the wrong way. You start to feel the need to explain yourself, not because you did anything wrong, but because you want to avoid conflict or avoid making others uncomfortable. Whether it's how you spend your time, who you surround yourself with, how you eat, how you dress, or why you've chosen a quieter, more intentional life. You don't owe anyone an explanation. Your life is not a mistake to be corrected, nor is it an unsolved riddle waiting for someone else to make sense of it. It's yours. Entirely yours. Crafted by your stories, shaped by your losses and triumphs, and rooted in the wisdom that only experience can teach. Living differently, especially after 60, often feels like a soft rebellion. Whether it's choosing solitude, setting stronger boundaries, or refusing to play by society's outdated rules, you're reclaiming your truth. But how often do we feel the urge to soften that truth with a gentle, "sorry," or a quick justification? "Sorry, I can't make it. Sorry, I'm not available. Sorry, I just need some time alone." These may seem like harmless words, courteous even, but over time, they become pebbles in your pocket, light at first, but cumulatively heavy. Every apology whispered for choosing yourself creates a small fracture in your autonomy. These aren't just habits. They are the echoes of a culture that taught you that your worth is tied to selflessness, to service, to never putting your needs ahead of others. Many women, especially those raised in traditional or collectivist cultures, were taught from an early age that their value came from being accommodating. The less you asked for, the more you were praised. The more you gave, the more lovable you were considered. The quieter your needs, the louder your worth. But here's the truth. Your life does not require approval to be valid. It doesn't need to be explained away to be worthy of respect. And you certainly don't need to apologize for seeking peace, honoring your rhythms, or simply living in a way that finally feels like your own. Maybe you grew up in a home where love and guilt walked hand in hand, where being good meant always placing yourself last. You were praised for your selflessness, celebrated as the rock of the family, the glue that held everyone else together. But over the years, that praise came with a quiet cost. What began as love soon turned into a quiet erasure. Your desires, your dreams, and even your simple needs slowly faded into the background. They were drowned out by the louder needs of everyone else. You found yourself cast in the role of caretaker, peacekeeper, the one who never complains. And gradually, that role became your identity. Not because you wanted it, but because you were taught that your value was defined by how much you could carry for others, how little space you took up, and how perfectly you could maintain the peace. Now, standing in the later chapters of your life, in your 60s, 70s, or even your 80s, you may feel a weight you can no longer ignore. You're exhausted from saying yes when your soul is crying out to say no. You're tired of showing up to every family gathering where your body is expected, but your voice remains unheard. You've poured your energy, what's left of it, into fixing problems that were never yours to solve, babysitting grandkids out of obligation, or holding emotional space for others when no one thought to do the same for you. And then, one day, when you finally gather the courage to say, "Not today," or "I need this time for myself," a wave of guilt floods in. It hits hard. Your choice for freedom feels like a betrayal, as if you're breaking an unspoken contract you've silently honored for decades. But that guilt, it's a lie. A convincing one, yes, but still a lie. It stems from the deeply rooted fear that love is conditional, that if you're not endlessly useful or constantly available, you no longer deserve affection, support, or belonging. A respected psychologist once said that true peace comes only when we live in alignment with our values, not according to the ever-changing expectations of others. But how can you live in alignment when every step toward your own needs is followed by an apology? As if choosing yourself requires permission. As if living on your terms is something shameful. Let's make one thing clear. Choosing to live differently after 60 is not an act of rebellion. It's an act of returning to yourself. It's not a rejection of those you love. It's a celebration of the self that was too often silenced by responsibility. You're not turning your back on others. You're finally turning toward yourself. And that is not selfish. That is sacred. So if you're still watching, and these truths are speaking to your heart, leave a comment with the number 2. I want to know you're walking with me through this journey. Thank you truly for sharing your time. But know this, when you start to reclaim your space, when you begin saying no, when you protect your time and energy as fiercely as you once gave it away, resistance will come. It often does. Some people in your life, perhaps family, longtime friends, or even those you've loved most deeply, might respond with confusion. They may not understand your shift. They might say, "You've changed," or "You're not who you used to be." And perhaps the one that cuts the deepest, "You've become selfish." But those words reveal more about them than they do about you. Their discomfort is not with your boundaries, it's with your freedom. Because for years, they have come to rely on your silence, your sacrifices, your tendency to say yes before you've even been asked. Your boundaries shake the ground beneath those who have long stood comfortably in the center of your giving. Their criticism, those sharp, quiet comments or heavy silences, is rarely about you as a person. It's more about their discomfort in losing control. When a woman who has always been the dependable caregiver, the one who solves every problem without being asked, begins to step away from that role, it unsettles the balance others have come to rely on. Their disapproval isn't rooted in cruelty. It's habit, born from years of unspoken expectation. They've structured their lives around your yes, around your sacrifices and willingness to always be there. So when you begin to say no, when you choose peace over participation, or rest over obligation, it forces them to confront a version of you they never took the time to know. The you with boundaries, preferences, and limits. That shift is not yours to apologize for. You don't owe anyone an explanation for protecting your energy, for reclaiming your quiet, for choosing less chaos and fewer demands. This isn't shrinking away from life. It's choosing a life with intention. A life that's finally unfolding on your terms, not dictated by the constant needs of others. After years of giving, sacrificing, and showing up even when you had nothing left to offer, you've earned this peace. And every time you feel pressured to apologize for it, to soften your decisions so others feel more comfortable, remember this. You're not just explaining yourself. You're handing over your power. And haven't you already given enough? Real peace doesn't come from being liked or understood by everyone. It comes from the deep, quiet confidence of knowing you're living in alignment with your truth. That kind of peace is built on self-respect. And self-respect means refusing to shrink to fit someone else's comfort zone. If someone in your life doesn't understand why you're setting boundaries, resting more, or simply choosing a quieter rhythm, it's no longer your responsibility to make them understand. It's their responsibility to respect it. And if they can't, then that discomfort belongs to them, not you. Your energy is sacred now, too valuable to waste explaining or defending the choices that keep you well. And that leads us to a truth many women avoid confronting, even within themselves. Stop sharing your dreams with people who don't truly listen. There's a delicate spark that forms when you begin to dream again. Maybe about taking a course, exploring a new city, starting a business, or simply learning something that makes your heart flutter again. This spark is soft at first. It's brave, born from a mixture of curiosity and hope. And it's especially powerful when you've been told, directly or indirectly, that dreaming has an expiration date, that after a certain age, you're supposed to settle into silence. But that flame can be extinguished in a moment if shared too soon with the wrong people. Imagine mustering up the courage to tell someone close to you, maybe a sibling, a friend, or even one of your children, about a small passion project, a travel idea, or a new hobby. You're not asking for permission. You just want to feel that connection, that encouragement, that someone else sees what you see. But instead, you're met with a smirk or a dismissive, "At your age?" As if joy, curiosity, or ambition have an age limit. As if your dreams are somehow foolish just because you've already lived so much life. They might respond with a chuckle coated in condescension, or offer a dismissive, "That's cute," as if your aspirations were a child's fantasy rather than a woman's vision. Sometimes they don't say anything at all, just silence. But not the kind that holds space for you. It's the kind that echoes like rejection, making your heartbeat falter. That silence speaks volumes, and the message it sends lands like a stone, heavy, cold, and unforgiving, on the tender hope you were brave enough to speak aloud. And without realizing it, their reactions begin to seep into your own thoughts. Suddenly, doubt takes root. You start to ask yourself quietly, "Am I being silly? Is this dream too big? Too late?" What was once a beautiful, budding idea begins to feel fragile. The dream hasn't failed. It's just been left out in the cold. This is how the dreams of older women die, not in fiery explosions, but in soft, unseen dismissals. In the polite chuckles, the raised eyebrows, the way conversations subtly shift away from your excitement. Each of these moments, small on the surface, chips away at the confidence you worked so hard to rebuild. What follows isn't rage or rebellion. It's a quiet fog that settles into your spirit, a heaviness that makes your days feel slower, your energy dimmer, your steps less certain. And soon, you find yourself retreating, not because you lack vision, but because the world made you question if it was still yours to claim. You begin telling yourself that it's wise to let go, that it's practical or mature to abandon these so-called childish hopes. But deep within, a voice still whispers the truth. It's not that the world has stopped offering possibilities. It's that you've been offering your possibilities to the wrong people. A respected voice in personal growth once said, "The soul becomes what it thinks." And if you constantly surround yourself with those who diminish your dreams, your soul begins to shrink in response, deprived of the nourishment it needs to flourish. Because every dream, no matter how modest or bold, is a seed. And like all seeds, it needs rich, nurturing soil to grow. But if you plant it in barren ground, in conversations filled with apathy, cynicism, or quiet dismissal, it will never stand a chance. This realization may sting, but it is also a turning point. Not everyone is worthy of your vision. Not everyone has the insight to understand that a woman in her 60s, 70s, or even 80s can still begin again. That age isn't a wall, it's a window into a time of clarity, resilience, and bold reinvention. You don't need to justify your dreams. You don't need to convince anyone of your value or your potential. Your only responsibility is to guard your spark, to protect it fiercely and place it where it can be nurtured. Be intentional about who you share your vision with. Choose people who meet your dreams with open hearts, with genuine curiosity and celebration. People who see beyond your age, who hear your voice without interruption, and who reflect back belief instead of doubt. These are your kindred spirits. These are the ones who will help your fire grow who will remind you that your dreams are worthy, because you are. And if you find yourself without the support of those who truly believe in your dreams, don't let that silence discourage you. Speak your dreams softly to yourself. Let them rise with the steam of your morning coffee. Write them down in a journal, one line at a time. Say them aloud when no one is listening, not for the world's approval, but to affirm your own belief in their worth. Because before anyone else believes in you, the first step, perhaps the most important one, is believing in yourself. No dream is too small, too late, or too silly. Each one is a whisper from your spirit, a sign that your heart still holds wonder, still reaches for more. These longings are not idle fantasies. They are proof that your story isn't over. You're still evolving, still creating, still very much alive. And if you choose to keep your dreams quietly tucked away for now, nurturing them in privacy until they're ready to bloom, that isn't fear, that's wisdom. There is a strength in holding your dreams close. There is respect practiced in the quiet, too. At this point in life, your energy is too rare and too sacred to waste seeking validation from those who drain more than they give. Stop looking for yourself in broken mirrors. Stop hoping for affirmation from people who only know how to take. Your dreams are worthy, and you, more than anyone, are their fiercest protector. Care for them the way a gardener cares for delicate new roots, gently, patiently, with reverence. That brings us to another quiet but damaging pattern, justifying your boundaries. Imagine your life as a home, a sanctuary filled with your thoughts, your energy, your sacred space. Now picture that home without doors or locks. People come and go as they please. They wander in, take what they want, dump their emotional baggage in your hallway, and expect you to tidy up afterward. No knock, no pause, no acknowledgement of what their presence costs you. This is what happens when you don't enforce boundaries. Your time, your emotional bandwidth, even your physical energy, becomes a resource for others to deplete. Without pause, without thanks, and without care. You find yourself worn down, scattered, emotionally overdrawn, wondering when your life stopped feeling like your own. And yet, when you finally gather the courage to say no, it feels like rebellion. A simple boundary becomes a source of guilt. You decline a favor you can't afford to give, and the need to justify yourself creeps in like a shadow. You skip a gathering that drains you, and suddenly you're explaining, softening your words, trying to cushion the blow as if your rest or your priorities are something that need permission. Why is it that protecting your well-being feels like a betrayal? This guilt often wears a familiar face. It comes not from strangers, but from those closest to you, wrapped in the soft tones of love, laced with the language of obligation. It's just one favor, they say, their voices gentle yet unrelenting. You're the only one who can help. If you don't do it, who will? These questions aren't always meant to harm, but they carry a subtle power. They pull you back into the role you've outgrown, the ever-reliable giver, the one who never says no, even when it means neglecting herself. What makes this dynamic even more painful is that it often stems from the people you care about most, your family, your close friends, even your children. It's not always malicious. In fact, it's usually cloaked in endearment. You're the only one who understands me, they'll say. Or, it won't take long, and we need you. The words are familiar, comforting even. But beneath their surface lies a quiet manipulation, one that tugs at your heartstrings and your history, making it harder to step away. Each time you concede, each time you silence your own needs to meet theirs, you give away something of immense value. A slice of your time, a sliver of your energy, and sometimes your peace. What's even more disheartening is that the more you offer, the less it's noticed. Your sacrifices become expected, your generosity taken for granted. Slowly, the people around you stop seeing your boundaries as sacred. Instead, They begin to see your constant availability as a given, as if your life exists solely to support theirs. This is a hard truth, but one you must face with courage. You don't owe your entire life to anyone. You've already given more than enough. You've poured yourself out for years, for children, for spouses, for parents, for friends. You've been the one who stayed up through the night, who put your own dreams on pause, who softened the edges of every conflict and made everyone else's life easier, often at the cost of your own. You've done all this out of love, out of a deep sense of responsibility, and yes, out of habit. But here, in this chapter of your life, you are allowed to say, enough. You are allowed to protect your energy like the treasure it is. You are allowed to choose peace over pleasing. And if you're still watching this video and finding these truths meaningful, I invite you to comment the number 3 below. It lets me know you're still with me, walking this journey together. And thank you, truly, for sharing your valuable time with me. Understand this: every time you justify your boundaries, you feed the guilt that others use, consciously or not, to pull you back in. It's a cycle that empties you, that leaves you drained and doubting your right to live on your own terms. And make no mistake, the toll it takes is not just emotional, it's physical. Burnout, anxiety, resentment, they don't just weigh on your spirit, they wear down your body too. Chronic stress from constantly putting others first can show up in real, tangible ways. High blood pressure, restless nights, a weakened immune system. These are not just inconveniences. They are warning signs from your body, calling for change, asking, gently but firmly, that you choose yourself. Your body is always listening, always keeping score, and now it's pleading with you to do the same. Just pause for a moment and imagine yourself 1 year from now, 5 years from now, even a full decade into the future. If nothing changes, if you keep saying yes when your soul is begging you to say no, if you continue putting everyone's needs ahead of your own, what will that future look like? What shape will your body take? What will remain of your spirit, your peace, your joy? That image isn't meant to scare you, but to wake you. Because here's the truth: no one is coming to interrupt this cycle for you. No one is going to swoop in and hand you permission to reclaim your time, your energy, or your life. That decision must be yours. You are the one who must reach for the doorknob and close the door. Establishing boundaries doesn't require a dramatic confrontation or a drawn-out explanation. It doesn't even need to be loud. It's a quiet, steady declaration of your worth. A powerful recognition that your body, your time, and your emotional space are not open to the world by default. Say no, and let that be enough. Decline invitations without rehearsing excuses. Rest without guilt clouding your silence. And if someone distances themselves because you won't bend to their expectations, release them. Their walking away only clarifies the truth. They were drawn to what you could offer, not to who you are at your core. But that moment of truth, it's the beginning of real freedom. It's the day you stop pleading for permission to live on your terms. The day you stop trading your peace for other people's comfort. At first, this shift may feel like loneliness. The silence that follows setting boundaries can be jarring, even unsettling. But sit with that silence, because it's in that space that clarity finally arrives. In that stillness, you begin to hear your own voice again. Perhaps it's been buried for years, muffled under the noise of obligation. Now, it's resurfacing. And yet, even here, after the boundaries, after the reclaiming, there's one last trap that quietly waits. It creeps in like a shadow just before dusk, the fear of growing older. It's one of the most universal human fears, yet we seldom speak it out loud. It hides behind our smiles, behind our busyness. It's the fear of physical decline, of being seen as less vibrant, less relevant, of being left behind as the world rushes forward. It's the unspoken worry that time will make you invisible. This fear is not weakness. It's not shameful. It's real and deeply human. But the danger isn't in feeling it. It's in letting it shape your days without you noticing. When you bring this fear into the wrong spaces, when you share it hoping for compassion, only to be met with avoidance or shallow comfort, it can weigh you down even more. You might hear things like, "Oh, you're still young at heart," or "Don't worry, just enjoy every moment." They mean well, but those words often land like stones, not support. Instead of feeling seen, you feel brushed aside. Instead of being comforted, you feel reduced, as if your fears only confirm what others dare not say out loud, that aging somehow diminishes your worth. This is exactly why your fear of aging must be held with care, not as something to deny, but not as something to declare as your identity either. Don't wear it like a banner of surrender, as if growing older means losing your power, your value, or your place in the world. Instead, meet it gently in the privacy of your own heart. If you're someone who believes in a higher presence, bring this fear into your prayers. Lay it down in sacred honesty. And if your strength comes from within, take a quiet moment to sit with it, write it down, or simply cry it out when needed. But never allow this fear to become the lens that colors every part of your life. Left unchecked, the fear of aging becomes a subtle tyrant. It tells you to fade into the background, to dress in neutral tones so you won't draw attention, to speak softly so you won't seem too bold or opinionated. It persuades you to make yourself smaller, just to fit into a world that often overlooks older women. It whispers that your dreams are outdated, that your wants are unrealistic, and that you should just be grateful for what's left, even if what's left doesn't nourish your soul. Worse still, this fear can convince you to accept treatment you would have rejected without hesitation in your younger years. It dresses itself up as politeness, or maturity, or gratitude, all while silencing your needs. But let's be clear, that's not wisdom. That's a quiet, corrosive lie. Aging isn't a punishment. It's a new chapter, a season that holds its own brilliance, its own depth, its own power. The light of this season doesn't come from pretending you're younger than you are. It doesn't come from hiding your wrinkles or denying the years you've earned. It comes from standing tall in your age, walking forward with clarity and unapologetic presence. It comes from seeing aging not as something that holds you back, but as something that can set you free. When you feed fear, it expands. It clouds your confidence, weakens your resolve, and makes you doubt the beauty of what still lies ahead. But when you acknowledge that fear, when you see it clearly without letting it decide for you, it transforms. It becomes a catalyst, a call to live more deliberately, more vibrantly, more truthfully in this very moment. You are never too old to begin again. You are never too far along to learn something new, to start a dream that's been sitting quietly inside you, or to design a life that fits your soul. The woman who dares to begin again in her 60s, 70s, or even 80s, she is not clinging to foolish hope. She is becoming who she was always meant to be. She is living proof that the human spirit doesn't weaken with age, it deepens. Her story reminds us that growth and reinvention are never bound by a number. Think about the woman who, after spending a lifetime putting others first, finally picked up a paintbrush at 75. At first, her strokes were hesitant, and doubt shadowed her confidence. But she kept showing up for herself. She let the colors speak where words couldn't. Today, her once quiet studio bursts with life, canvases filled with bold, vibrant energy, each one a reflection of her courage to begin again. Or take the woman who, at 68, enrolled in a local community college. She walked into the classroom with a heart full of hope, brushing off the sideways glances of students half her age. She studied, showed up, and earned her certificate. But more importantly, she reignited her sense of purpose, proving to herself and the world that it's never too late to learn something new. These women didn't try to reverse their age or hide from it. Instead, they used it as a launching pad, a foundation built on experience, wisdom, and strength. And you can do the same. Hold your dreams close. Guard your peace with boundaries that don't need explanation. Confront your fears not with noise, but with stillness and grace. This life, every season of it, is yours to shape. You don't need anyone's approval but your own. And something shifts the moment you stop apologizing. When you stop explaining your truth to people who never deserved access to it. When you stop seeking validation in places that have never honored your worth. That's when you finally start living from your center. That's when alignment begins. This isn't a small shift. It's a quiet revolution. A reclamation of your voice, your time, your path. It's the moment you stop shrinking and start standing tall in the full truth of who you are. And this, more than anything, is what it means to age with purpose. So there you have it. 9 truths that, when held close, have the power to reshape not just how you move through the world, but how you feel within it. These aren't just concepts. They're powerful choices. Choices to honor your journey, to protect your energy, to live with unshakable dignity, no matter what season of life you're in. Now, I want to hear from you. What resonated most with you today? Was it the strength found in silence, the freedom in setting boundaries, or the inspiration to finally chase a dream you've kept tucked away for years? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We're in this together. Let's be a community that uplifts and inspires. If this message spoke to your heart, take a moment to like, share, and subscribe to Healthy Aging Blueprint. Together, we'll continue exploring what it means to age boldly and live fully. Until we meet again, wishing you strength, joy, radiant health, and deep peace. And don't forget to subscribe to Healthy Aging Blueprint for more heartfelt insights.